Hey there, sports fans. How are we doing? I'm very well, thank you. Welcome to 10 Yards Back with this, my prediction video for round 3 of the Betfred Superleague. So in these prediction videos, I'm going to highlight my top game of each day of the weekend and give you my thoughts, musings, ideas on how I think the team should be selected, how I think they're going to play, and ultimately what I think the score is going to be. So first off, let's look at the fixtures. So overall this weekend, we've got Wigan hosting Leigh in the Battle of the Borough. We've got Castleford Huddersfield on Friday, sort of Battle of the Ducks, really, if we're honest. Hull FC host York. Then we go to Vegas, baby, on Saturday. Hull KR Leeds. Catalans Saints, Saturday evening. Warrington Wakefield actually before that game. And Bradford versus Toulouse, closing out the weekend there. I was going to use the Toulouse joke for a third time in this, but I'll let you use your imagination on how I would do that. So the actual sort of matchups here, aren't really super meaningful because we're only 3 rounds in, but nevertheless, we've got 1v5, 14-13. Everything looks kind of even. Everything is set for quite a competitive round, but that's just the rugby league gods have got a habit of messing with that, haven't they? So let's just wait and see what happens. Now, Thursday night sees Wigan host Leigh at the Brick Community Stadium, the Battle of the Borough. This game cannot disappoint. I don't think there's any way this can disappoint, because even if one of these teams gets battered, that will still be a spectacle in itself. So Thursday night, 8 o'clock, get yourselves on the couch, get yourselves a tinny if you're so inclined, and watch this game. Interestingly, we're in round 3 now, and I actually think the fixtures of the week on all 3 rounds have been on a Thursday. You know, we had that opening game, Hull KR versus the Knights, which was a shock, you know, the shock of the year, World Cup Challenge, and now this, the Battle of the Borough on Thursday night. If we look at the teams individually, how they sort of stack up against each other stats-wise, both have played 2 games, so we're a completely even playing field here. Wigan are kind of dominating these stats. You know, they've conceded less, they've scored more, they've ran more meters by quite a margin, and they're converting better. However, if you look at the opponents that Wigan have faced in the past 2 weeks, we've had, Castleford and Hull FC. Now, with all due respect to those teams, they ain't Leeds and Saints, are they? And this is new Saints as well, not last year's diet bullshit. So Leigh have had by far the tougher run, and have really, really, really run their blood to water in both of those games. So you have to take that into consideration. Wigan these days are kind of a bit of a lumbering giant now. Whether they're just playing with their food because they can, you know, waiting for the opposition to kind of bow out and close down. Yeah, maybe that's true. Leigh, however, they're chomping at the bit, aren't they? They are just hitting straight out of the stocks, the jocks, I don't know. Straight out of the gate. That's what I was looking for. The gate, everyone. Straight out of the gate with that attacking style. I saw them last week against Saints, and it's very different seeing a team on a field compared to on TV. You get to see how they shape up in defence and attack, what they do when they're close to their line, how they apply pressure. And Leigh, to me, last week were very impressive, just in the way that they could move the ball. It seemed like wherever they wanted it to go, it went. So let's bear that in mind as we travel through this prediction. This is how I think the teams should look in this game. Now, I don't know if they will. So the way I see this, right, both teams have really powerful, agile forwards. You know, you've got Luke Thompson, Ethan Havard. They're really good at poking through a defence. They're also big in defence. They can put the bumpers up and hit a line and cause trouble. So can Mulhern, Trout, Offingawe, Jack Hughes can do the same. Lee's forwards, however, are a little bit more agile than Wigan's, and I've said this in the past. I mean, Owen Trout, for example, I think he's been given the number 12 shirt this year, so he's not even playing at prop officially anymore. But I think that's where he does a real good number. Wigan's weakness these days comes around that number 4 position, around the centre position. Jake Wardle's out, right? Last week, they had Liam Farrell subbing in for him. Now, they've got Jack Farrimond sat on the bench, sat somewhere. I think in this game, they need to put some young, agile fella out there on the wing, because look who he's lined up. He's lined up against Myla Hanley and Tessie New, Josh Charnley and Ennis Senior. These guys are incredibly fast, incredibly strong. You kind of need a young, creative brain there. Liam Farrell is amazing at wriggling through a line, finding a gap and exploiting it. I think they need someone a little bit more defensively minded in that gap now, and a little bit who can read the ball a little bit more. When it comes down to it, I think that sort of, I mean, I'm putting a lot on that weakness, right? I'm putting a lot on that Jake Wardle absence and that sort of question mark they've got there. Coupling that with the sort of lumbering attack they've had over the past couple of weekends, I think that we're going to get caught cold a little bit here. And Lachlan Lamb, Edwin Ipape, and those wings and centres that I just mentioned, they're going to chew up the meters, they're going to get down to the line, and there's going to be a lot of crashing over. I don't think there'll be too many like runaway line break tries, but I just think that Leigh here have got the real upper advantage. The last time they played each other in the semi-final, I think the better team lost. I think that Wigan capitalised better, and Leigh are going to remember that, and they're going to want revenge for it. So that's my Friday night predictions for the Brick Community Stadium. What do you think, Wigan or Leigh? Let me know. And in the meantime, I'm going to go to the MKM Stadium for my pick of Friday. When I first saw this lineup, this game on Friday, I had York taking this by a considerable margin. Hull FC they're plagued by injuries at the minute. I don't quite understand why so many teams have got so many injury crises just coming into the season. But if we look at how each are performing, they've both won one apiece. So they're not really in the danger zone yet. I mean, maybe after the weekend, one of them will be. Kind of down the middle, really, in terms of meters and tackles. Hull FC just kind of pipping them there with that really fast-paced game against Bradford. The injuries, though. Now, if we look at the team, now they lost Will Price last week, Hull FC did, but this week they've gained back Zach Hardacre and John Asiata, and for me that is huge in their favour. And I don't want to say it's a good thing that Price isn't there, but reintroducing someone who's a ball player in the way that Asiata is, with Price out the back, could have been a little bit of a standoff introduction. Having Hardacre, I'm assuming Hardacre is going to play fullback here, which is where he's best, in my opinion. Because let's be honest, he's played every other position. He had a prop last year or something. I think that having Hardacre at the back, safe pair of hands, or an attacking threat if you want him to be, coupled with the Asiata return. Those centres, Arthur Romano and Davy Litton, are doing absolute work. I just think they're going to overwhelm York. Now is the time for Hull FC to really start putting things together. Price is out for the year. Ignore him. Start building your season right now against York. Now, you can't discount York, and there's a reason for that. The reason is that at this point in the season, week 3, York are relying, I think, heavily on the element of surprise. They surprised Hull KR in the first round, taking that victory. I think they even surprised Leeds a little bit last week. I think, or what was it, 46-10? I think even that for Leeds was probably a little bit surprising. But York have this deal at the minute, and it's perfectly legal. No one's breaking any rules here. They've got an agreement with Newcastle Thunder where they can basically freely swap players indefinitely. So back and forth. They can loan players to Newcastle. Newcastle can loan players to them. Now, I'm guessing this is always the case. If you set up like a sister club or whatever, a feeder club, I'm guessing that's always the case. It's just that usually, if you've got Saints paired with Halifax haven't always got loads to offer Saints. Whereas Newcastle and York, they're both kind of pseudo championship clubs at the minute still. So the level and the game plans, the strategy, the culture around those clubs is probably similar enough for that connection to be meaningful. So I'm calling this the vitality clause that York have got. They can just, if someone isn't working, if someone gets injured, they can just pluck a player straight from Newcastle Thunder, and they're full of beans, good to go, looking to prove themselves in Superleague. And that element of surprise might just be enough to score them a few points. Not enough points, though, to overcome that Hardacre Asiata introduction. I think the team's going to be bolstered here. I've got 26-10 to the home team, to Hull FC. Again, happy to be wrong on that one if York can pull something off. But I just think that with Hull's defensive prowess that they've always had, the real gutsy culture, coupled with that ball-playing threat in the middle, I just think Hull FC are going to take Friday night's game. So let's go to Vegas. Now, Saturday night's pick of the week. I mean, Saturday's full of them. We've got Warrington, Wakefield, Saints, Catalans. But I think that the Vegas game against Hull KR and Leeds is going to take the day. Now, it's hard to figure out when this game's actually going to start. I think it's starting at midnight. I think it's 4 o'clock Vegas time. Because if it was 4 o'clock our time, that would be like 8 a.m. kickoff in Vegas, and I can't see that being the case. When this fixture was announced last year, Hull KR had won nothing. Leeds were kind of still a little bit down in the dumps. The Brad Arthur effect hadn't quite kicked in yet. So when this was announced last year, I just thought, okay, who cares? Who cares about this? It's actually become one of the matchups of the year. We're gonna queue up to watch this one this time round, and we're gonna queue up to watch it again when it returns to Headingley. Hull KR versus Leeds is an immense matchup, and as a Saints fan, I'm glad that the semi-final was Saints versus Hull KR because it got Saints a little bit further down the line. But I think a semi Hull KR Leeds would have been fantastic. So let's have a look at how they're performing this year. Bear in mind here when you look at these stats that Hull KR only have one league game under their belt, and it was a loss. So these stats might be a little bit misleading. Nevertheless, meters, tackles, all about the same. Leeds are conceding about the same, scoring way more than the Robins. Robins are sat at the bottom of the table, but like I said, they have no points right now. They haven't won any games. They've only played one of them. So let's see how we get on. So if we look at the teams now, I don't think much has been said on squad selection or anything like that. Both teams are kind of keeping it under their belt a little bit, except that in an unprecedented, real ballsy move, Leeds released their squad last Thursday, I believe. or maybe last Saturday, but right after the World Club Challenge, Leeds just put that marker down and said, "This is who we're taking. Come and get us." And I love that. I love Leeds, who's like a bit of an old man, isn't it? Really, Leeds. The Leeds Rhinos is just like, yep, they'll always be there. They always have been there, and they're just a part of the furniture. For them to start doing these ballsy tricks of like, calling people out, essentially, I do quite like that. Now, Hull KR, they lost Artur Morg last week. I think that is a massive, massive loss. KR are a bit of a factory at the minute, aren't they? They've discovered Mikey Lewis. They've discovered Jez Litton. Minchella has kind of just come to prominence over there. You got Tyrone May. No one really knew who that was over here before he started playing in that KR system. Artur Morg was a bit of something over in Catalans, but since coming to KR, he's really, really cemented himself as one of the fullbacks at the league. If not, maybe like the best. No, one of. I'm gonna stick to one of. Right. Jack Broadbent, however, in my opinion, is one of those guys who's just simply unlucky that Artur Morg was in the team. I would put him at fullback any day of the week. I think he's a really good player. He's got real good rugby league IQ. He's always where he needs to be. Always there, ready to pick up a ball, ready to drop it off to the right person. So Jack Broadbent is not. It's not a nothing substitute, but it's definitely not Morg, right? Leeds have Lachie Miller. Leeds have Mika Sivo, who we saw last week. Leeds have Hanley and Hall and Croft and bloody Jake Connor. Forget the forwards in this game. I think we can just, all right, they've both got a pack. You know what? Let's just have let's give Leeds Saints pack and let's give Hull KR Wigan's pack, and we'll just rule that out. Just absolutely shuffle those decks, because this game is going to be an aerial adventure where Jake Connor's, I reckon the ball spends about 3 minutes in the air of total hang time over this game, because Jake Connor can leave those kicks floating in the air while the defense gets down. Mikey Lewis has absolute pinpoint accuracy with his kicks. Now, the reason why this is such a good matchup is because Miller and Sivo and Hall are almost the kryptonite for the Hull KR tactic of kick them to the corner, keep them there, batter them, because they can chew up meters for fun. Right, Lachie Miller, I think last year was averaging like 200 meters a game or something like that. Maybe that's an incredible amount, but so it's going to be fast. It's going to be kicks. The Australians are going to hate it because apparently Australians don't like kicks, but it's going to be a real good spectacle for a Super League fan. I've got Hull KR taking this one pretty comfortably. Last week against the Broncos, they just had so many options. I was amazed at the amount of last tackle options they had there last week. I just think that's gonna overwhelm Leeds. It's gonna short circuit them, and quite frankly, I just don't think they've got the tools to overcome that once KR get in the game. Now, something that the Robins did last week, and this is why I think Leeds are going to score about 20, maybe 30 points, is that they were overcommitting to every tackle and they knackered themselves out, and that is why the Broncos got back in the game. So if they can control that, and if they can avoid exhausting themselves, tracking back for those balls that Connor's firing back there, they can do really well in this game. So that's it. That's my highlights of the weekend. That's my Thursday, Friday, Saturday night picks. Sunday, you're going to watch that one anyway. You don't kind of need to choose that one. So Wigan, Leigh beat Wigan, I think. Huddersfield, Castleford. I just think that George Flanagan and that forward pack who are really starting to build something together are too powerful for Castleford. Hull FC York, we discussed. Hull KR Leeds, we discussed. I think Catalans are just going to pip it over Saints because Saints don't travel very well. And I don't know, but the thing that Saints have here is unpredictability. Catalans don't really know who they're going to be playing right now. Maybe that can win them the game. I don't know. I think it's going to be a close one, but Catalans will probably nick it. I think Warrington will probably stroll in against Wakefield. Wakefield just haven't really been connecting recently, have they? Warrington, it's a second game out. They always start the season with a bang, so I've got Warrington winning there. And Bradford versus Toulouse. There is a way that Toulouse can win this, but my heart says defence wins games, and Bradford are the stronger defensive team. All right, that's round 3. Let me know what you think. I'll be sat here in my AI-assisted studio for now. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the predictions. Who have you got winning? Who will win in Vegas? It's a good question. All right, until next time, guys. See you later.